was something that happened, I would say, kind of recently that was really a shocker to me because I was like, whoa, like we don't really have like issues, like we talk about these things.
Yeah. Asking God when you pray, especially in these moments and when you're married, to just soften your heart, soften your heart, pray for your heart to just to listen to your spouse, to understand your spouse.
Just being able to be more myself around you, and like surrendering these things. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I think it's now, like I said, finding our strengths. I think it's really helping out. Okay, we are different in so many areas, and it's just getting better to know those areas that I didn't even know I was good at,
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, Living Gratitude Podcast. We're back with another episode. And today we're going to get into a pretty deep topic because it involves both of us, our marriage. We're going to cover how we have kept God at the center of our marriage and just share a little bit of our stories, how we started and where we are at now, and keeping God at the center.
Yeah, for sure. I think before we even had God in our lives, like our marriage looked totally different. Our parenting looked totally different. We're just gonna, kind of talk about our own perspectives of how we've seen our marriage grow and how God has been the focal point to our relationship and our marriage, and how we've been able to fight those battles that the enemy throws at us constantly, especially when you're married.
I pulled up 4 quick questions. We didn't like plan it before or anything like that, so just it is what it is, whatever it comes out.
Yeah.
Raw and authentic right here. So I'm gonna start with something you kind of covered right now. How do you think our marriage looked before we started inviting God in, compared to how it looks like now? So how was it before and how is it now in your eyes?
Well, before, I think we would let our own values that were not attached to God's, our I guess our godly truth, kind of take over our day, as far as like we would do things in selfish ways. We would argue in a way that we would try to put the other person down, so we would win that argument or win that I guess battle between each other. It was constant battling. It was just like, who's gonna bring the better argument to the table? That's kind of what it felt like. I feel like when we first, before we put God into our relationship, it was like every day, like we could be having a great day, but I think once you become so addicted to your old emotions and feelings and your values, your body starts craving those feelings, and feelings are just a fruit of something bigger. And I think we finally started understanding that once we came to Andy. But what I feel is like we would be having a good day, and then all of a sudden one of us would like do something to sabotage that feeling. And then it would just lead to like bickering. And then it would just lead to us kind of being like, okay, like what is this? What are we even getting out of this? You know what I mean? Like what's the purpose? But the purpose is just to like almost like feed your old selfish, anxious, and low self-esteem kind of ways. So then you can feel like you did something. Like you I don't know, won a battle or something like that. No, it was like very hostile. I feel like, we did. I mean, it wasn't like this all the time, but I just feel like
We'd have moments.
we have had our moments that just very
You can feel the tension.
That's what I
You know
meant,
that
yeah.
saying, like you can cut the tension with a knife type of thing.
with a butter knife.
With the butter knife?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. That was us. But definitely we never went without speaking.
No,
It
but
was more like throwing low blows at each other,
Yeah.
throughout the day, or like kind of ignoring each other. For sure, ignoring was a big one. That
Yeah,
avoidance.
I think that's what it was. I think it was more ignoring, and then like one of us would just like go away. Like
Yep,
I would
run
go play
away.
golf, or I would run away with my friends, or do something like that, and vice versa. You would get away doing something, and then we wouldn't talk about it. We would just let it sit there.
Go to sleep mad, like we're sleeping on opposite. You turn
Yeah.
one way, I turn the other way. Like typical what you see on
Yeah.
TV type of thing when you're, kid you not, it was like that. And yeah, the tension that I would carry, man. Like,
Yeah,
I didn't know, like, that feeling of just, like, why am I mad? I don't want
I
to be
know.
mad, but I need to be mad almost, you
Exactly.
know?
That's exactly what it was. It's like you
Hmm.
need to be mad. Like, no, I can't be the one saying sorry.
Yes.
Like, why am I gonna say sorry? I'm not wrong. And you start like painting this whole picture in your head, and like in my instance, right, I had a lot of trouble with, uh, like almost setting up a whole scene in my head. You know what I mean? Where I would like completely make up this whole movie in my head from start to finish of like everything that is gonna happen once I say sorry or once I like confront her. And it would just like I would be like, no, what is going on, you know? And it was just like a part of who I was, you know, like
Hmm.
it was normal to me at that point, you know, and it would just drive me nuts. And then like we wouldn't even talk about it, and then we would just go like, okay, it's over.
Whatever, let it go.
But then what would happen is later on, another day, like those those same feelings would come up, and then now you're stacking them onto
Hmm.
the next one, and until finally one day you have like a blow up, and then you're just like arguing, and then you bring something up from like 2 months ago, and then you're
Hmm.
like, well, how come you didn't tell me that before? You know, and
For
it's just
sure.
like you're holding all these emotions and feelings in, and you're letting your those old habits just kind of take over your day and your emotions.
One thing
Um,
that recently happened, because we actually haven't really had any issues like
yeah,
anytime
I'm
recently, you know?
thirsty today.
Stay hydrated, my friend. Was something that happened, I would say, kind of recently that was really a shocker to me because I was like, whoa, like we don't really have like issues, you know, like we talk about these things.
Yeah.
When you overgeneralize, you're like, you always do this.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, always? I don't know exactly what it was, but it was something with Noah.
I mean, I can't remember.
I don't
I'm
remember
sure
the
I use
exact
it a
situation,
lot.
but he literally was like, "You always do this," and I was like, that really hit me because I was like, when you say always, you're generalizing that that's just who you are every single time you're doing something wrong. So in my mind, I
Yeah.
was like, this guy is going back to his old self or what? Like, I don't always do this. I do this sometimes. I understand, you know.
Yeah.
And that was a big one, but I know you went back and you apologized that same night. You're like, you know what? I'm sorry. I messed up. I shouldn't have said always doing this. I was frustrated at the moment. Just at that time, you did something I feel like you shouldn't have, but it's not an always, you know?
Yeah.
But like if you would have been, you know, if it would have been like years ago, we definitely wouldn't have gone back and apologized that same
Yeah, I mean,
night.
and that gets into the answer for the next one, right? Like what happens when you put God in the center of everything first. God convicts you of these feelings and these emotions, and it's not a sense of like feeling guilty or shame anymore. It's more of like, I messed up. Let me go. Let me make it better. You know, and the ways that you make it better is by apologizing. And let me tell you, that's the hardest thing as a
Oh,
married
yeah.
couple for sure. I think is like, or just in general, like apologizing to anybody. You
Hmm.
know, like apologizing to your parents, apologizing to your kids, like all that is hard. Like it's not easy whatsoever. So I think when you put God in the center of everything, he softens your heart to go ahead and do that. You know,
Hmm.
he eliminates that ego and
The fear.
that feeling of pride, you
Hmm.
know, because and the fear of not knowing how they're going to respond, or
Hmm.
not, or the fear of not being able to do it and not having the strength to do it,
Hmm.
and then the fear of like, how are you gonna like yourself gonna react whenever they accept the apology, because you're kind of like, I've never done it, so like it's
Hmm.
something so new, but it's such a big emotion to let out that it just like makes you second guess it every single time. And as much as you try, like, you know, I think we've been pretty consistent on apologizing to each other and to the kids. It's still hard. Like it's like as hard as like before getting into the cold plunge. Like, you know, the cold plunge, you're sitting out there for like 5 minutes. Sometimes you're like, I really don't want to get in, and you're like, okay, finally get in.
Hmm.
That's kind of like how it is when it came to
Apologizing.
apologizing. You know, because even with Noah, you know, with our son, there's times where I like snap, you know, and then I'm like, okay, it wasn't his fault, God. Like, show me mercy, show me grace, you know, don't show me patience because you're just going to keep testing my patience, you know, but show me how to discipline him, you know, how to talk to him. And then like the first thing that comes up is like, okay, you got to go apologize first. And I do. And the funny thing is that he remembers, you know, like he
yeah.
really remembers. He's like, and he'll be very like, well, what are you apologizing for? And I'm like, oh,
You gotta
you
get
know?
specific.
Now I got to get very detailed, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that has really changed is like asking God when you pray, especially in these moments and when you're married, to just soften your heart, you know, soften your heart, pray for your heart to just to listen to your spouse, to understand your spouse, to know how it is that they're speaking. Don't take things personal. Don't take things like, you know, they're trying to tell you what to do kind of
It's a
thing, you know?
huge
You know what I
one.
mean? It is.
That is such a huge one. Don't take things personal. That is so big for me. And I know that's changed our relationship. The fact that I would see things my way, but I had to start asking myself, God, show me how you see the situation. Like, how do you want me to see him in the situation? Because I see it different.
Yeah.
I'm like, my way is this way. And it's like, I'm right and I'm right, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, maybe you want me to see it different, you know, because he's thinking different. So that's
It's
really
like tunnel vision, they call it, you know,
Yeah.
and your eyes are just focused on what you see
Mhm.
and that nothing else matters. And like everything that's coming in is just like, no, 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 no.
Yep,
And it's like a defense mechanism that
for
we
sure.
put up, you know?
So that's a little bit of how we used to be. Very defensive, very would avoid situations, things of that sort. And now putting God in the center has really changed so much in our lives. So now it's coming to when we have like not an altercation, but it's like, hello, we come from two different households. We are
Yeah.
raised very different. We're male and female, like very different genders. Of course, we're going to be different. It's
Yeah.
normal. You should be different. That's where in our journey right now, looking to find our differences, you know, especially in our business, we're like, when we found our gifts, we're
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe I'm a little bit more this, being a little bit more my feminine, and you're a little bit
Yeah.
more your masculine. I think slowly starting to find where are we different and strengthening those things. I think it's really helping that part because we were
Yeah.
very, very similar in the way we would act to things
Yeah.
and or you know
Exactly.
enjoy it. So it's not finding how are we different,
Okay, I
and let's
got
use
it.
that as a strength.
You know what it is?
What?
Like we're both so alike. We were both so alike in a lot of ways that we almost know what each other's thinking. So like
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of like, oh, I know exactly why you're doing this,
Yeah.
and it just like it
And
kinda,
I'm like that too.
yeah. So then we're kind of like, okay, it's almost like you get put into like this pickle. You know, you're just
Yeah.
kind of like, who's gonna get out 1st?
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the hard part about it. Is just like, man, we are so alike, and we know exactly what we're thinking sometimes, and it's just like, okay, who's gonna call it out first?
It's funny because you've always been this person. You're like, I'm a step ahead. Like I see what you're doing about other people,
Yeah.
and in my head, I'm like, no, I see what you're doing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm reading you real quick.
Yeah.
You know?
Other little things like that, but that's what I've noticed. They just dawned on me the other day. I was just like, what is it? Because we're so alike that sometimes it's hard, like a little bit harder.
Yeah. But I think it's now, like I said, finding our strengths. I think it's really helping out. Okay, we are different in so many areas,
Yeah.
and it's just getting better to know those areas that I didn't even know I was good at, you know?
Yeah.
Like I never went into like my creativity side, and I was like, whoa, I guess I am kind of creative, and that's my feminine me,
Yeah.
you know, and like just being less masculine in certain situations because I grew up very masculine, you know, just letting go of that part and being more my
Yeah.
feminine. I'm like, wow, I've always had this in me, but I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And you vice versa, being more masculine now. What does it mean to be masculine?
Working on cars.
That's what I thought. It's not.
Never. Not that kind of for me. Like that's not me. But yeah, I know what you mean. Just taking more charge, being the leader, and leading by example. I
Yeah.
think that's the main thing.
And I think that's finding our differences, and now like, oh, we have different roles in this relationship, and let's really take on our roles, you know. Knowing, I know with their kids too, we're always like kind of like, oh, we need to be on the same page. Yeah, we do, but we also have different roles, and we
yeah.
thought we had to have the exact same role.
Yeah.
We both do the same thing. No, we agree. You do this and you do that, but it's okay for me to be more empathetic. It's okay if
Yeah.
I'm the hugger and you're not necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I like to give them hugs and kisses, you
Yeah.
know, and you having to be, is it, you know, okay with it and things of that sort. But let's
Yeah.
not get too off topic. Let's go on to our next
Yeah, no,
question.
that was good.
adding a little bit to that, how we keep Christ in the center of our marriage. Is there anything else you want to add other than how I said when we have a problem, you go now we oh actually we didn't talk about it.
Well, the way that we said, one of the things that we did say was we pray and we ask God to soften our hearts to be able to, and being able to apologize. And that was one big
it's a
thing,
big
you know,
one.
because when you ask God to soften your heart and to, you know, understand your spouse, I think it really brings you back to reality and understanding that, like, okay, this is what I need to do. God's not condemning me, but he's convicting me that I need to go apologize. And I think when you have that and being, you know, having God in the center and coming to him for help first to give you that strength and that guidance and, you know, that softening of the heart allows you to go and apologize and, you know, make truths pretty much, you know, with the situation. And I think that's been huge because now those arguments that would last, you know, hours, it's, you know, 15 minutes. And it's like, hey, I'm sorry, you know, and it's really like, it's just literally just like, hey, I'm sorry. Like I kind of let my emotions get the best to me and I wasn't seeing your point of view. And I was just, you know, kind of in a bad mood about something else that triggered earlier with something else. You know, you remember these things and then next thing you know, you're like, okay. And then you feel like you feel heard, you feel seen, you feel like, okay, they understand where I was coming from. And then now you move on. And now that just builds your character, you know, and that's all coming through Christ and his word.
Yep. That's good right there.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And another thing that I wanted to add with that is just like always start your morning with surrendering. I think putting that first is like, okay, I'm surrendering my wife, my kids, because at the end of the day, like we're his, you know what I mean? Like you're not mine. My kids are not mine. Those are God's kids, you know, I'm here to take care of them and I'm surrendering them to him every single day, letting him know like, hey, they're way better in your hands than they are in my hands. So like, please help me and guide me to be able to discipline them and lead them in a way that I need to as a man. You know what I mean? And doing that, surrendering every morning, I think has led me to feel like, okay, I have to see things differently. I have to come to God for help. It's not just me trying to do this on my own, is asking God every single time for help during these times because I'm surrendering to him. It's him teaching me and guiding me through all this, you know, letting the Holy Spirit lead me through this whole process of being a father, being a dad, being a business owner, because this is all given to me by him and he's not going to let me down. You know what I mean? He's empowering me every single day. And it just goes back to the whole verse of like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It's such a you know, popular verse. And I think a lot of people use it, but I feel like it's really hit me because it does help me remember that like everything that God has put in front of me, being a father, being a husband, being a business owner, being a son, and, you know, having issues growing up and all these things that were put into my life, it's all part of his perfect plan. And he's not there to just give you that and be like, okay, do this on your own. No, he wants you to go to him for help so then you can build that kingdom through him, you know. And I think it's really shifted my mindset with that.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I heard you just mention something about having issues growing up. That's actually our next question, a follow-up question. So with that, you know, we both came into this marriage. We both have our baggage from the past. We have our issues from when we were children and things of that sort. What's one area where you've been really felt that God has been healing you since we started focusing more on him? Where has he healed you? Where has he helped you with ever since you started putting focus on him? Like what's one of the biggest areas? I know there's so many, right?
The truth. I think that's the main thing. I think for a while there, when I first started in my journey with God, I was trying to find answers for so many things because I just felt like I had a lot of emotions and a lot of things happening in my life that I didn't know why they were happening. And I was always like feeling victimized about my relationships, my emotions, my feelings, the way people seen me, and just the way that I carried myself. It was all because of a certain thought or feeling that I thought about myself, you know, and it was never the truth. You know, I was painting this picture of myself, who I was for so long. And it was just, almost like covering my real self,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't in just this is just recently, because even a couple months ago, when I was already following God's steps, I was still trying to figure out so much about myself because I was still dealing with a lot of little issues. But Andy, I guess he's like a spiritual dad. He says,
Mm-hmm.
he really has been guiding us through the Bible and through God and faith. And he gave me an amazing example. I guess he had a friend of his who, and I don't know how I can't remember the exact story, so I'm just gonna probably butcher it a little bit, but I'll get the main point out. But he mentioned that he had a friend that went to the school, and his main goal was to find counterfeit money. Like that was his purpose. Like he was so driven to do that. And he went to this school, and he's like, at the school they just had him look over and over and over all like real money. Like we just every single day was like a different dollar bill, $5 bill, $100 bill, and they would just look through it to like see exactly how real it was. It was just like a real $100 bill, a real $5 bill. And the guy was getting fed up. He's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, how are we ever gonna find fakes if we're never looking at the fakes? We're never comparing them, seeing what the difference is or not." And it wasn't until like the last semester that he had at that school that they went and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna be boots on the ground." And then they went to find counterfeit money, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, we've never even seen a fake. So how are we gonna know how a fake looks?" And what they noticed was that um, these kids, or these, I don't know if they were kids, but these people were finding fakes this quick because they were so focused on what the real one looked like that they can spot a fake right away.
Mm.
And I noticed that he's like, now apply that to your life. He's like, know the truth so much about yourself or who you really are that as soon as a fake comes in, like a lie about yourself comes in, because the lies are always going to be coming up, because that's how the enemy attacks you, is with your lies. All these lies about who you were, you're not worthy, you're nothing, you should feel guilty, you should feel shame, all those bad things, all those emotions that you carry, you start noticing them right away. And then you start right away, that's not me anymore, God. That person, that's my old man. He died with, and was buried with Christ. You know what I mean? I'm a new person now. I will not let that image of myself come up anymore. And you start saying these things, and you start noticing the truth so much and focusing on the truth so much about yourself that the lies just start going away, and you start becoming this new person who God made you to be, who you are through Christ. And that really starts giving you the authority that you need to become that new person. And everything else doesn't matter anymore. You're just seeking his righteousness every single day, his kingdom and his righteousness every single day. And then everything else will be handed over to you. You know what I mean? So like after that, your marriage, you start putting God in your marriage. You start putting your kids in your marriage, and you're with God, everything, like that starts coming together, and you start noticing that like you're seeing them differently now. And it becomes like a good, I don't know, it's like a good feeling of everything, you start rejoicing in everything that you do with your family, with your kids, and everything that you do. So
Wow.
I feel like that's how I see it now. It's just becoming so aware with the truth of who you really are. And all those other things are going to start getting dimmed, and you're not going to have that struggle anymore.
I love that. I've heard you mention the lies that it's really impacted you ever since Andy taught you that, but I never thought you would say that as your response, like
Yeah.
that is such a different perspective to hear that's been the biggest breakthrough. And I love that because I know that's something that we all should be applying, and myself as well be
Yeah.
applying in my life to be able to detect that. And I feel like the self-awareness of like that's not you, God, use who are, how to differentiate who is God, the voice, and who is
Yeah.
not, which is the truth and the lie. So
Yeah.
I really think
I think what happens is, right when you come into a relationship and a marriage, you are bringing that past with you, but that past is not who you are. So if you become aware of that, and like you said, self-awareness of who you really are through Christ now, you're going to leave that behind, but it's not until you can fix yourself. You have to do like some deep diving into your soul and dig those roots out all the way out. And it's not easy because you and I have gone through some, very, very emotional,
still going through them.
Yeah, some very, very emotional moments, and some moments that you're like, I don't even want to do this anymore because it hurts so bad, because you start finding out so much about yourself and your past that it just like, man, you're always like, is this going to how can this get any worse? Is this going to like keep going? What's next? But the feeling you feel after that, the freedom that you feel, like you almost feel like God is just like picking you up and just like, okay, that's one obstacle. Let's get to the next one. And it just feels so liberating. And I think you have to do some soul searching so much and dig for those roots and find out what lies have you been telling yourself for so long. Like find out what lies are in your head. What lies is the enemy playing in your head every single day about who you are? And then come to realization that those are just lies, that your values should be seeking his kingdom first. And then you're going to start seeing like, wow, like this is what peace really feels like. Because I'm not going to say that I'm peaceful. Like I don't go through troubles, because I do. There's spiritual battles going through every single day, but you wake up and you put your armor of God on and you're ready to fight that battle like David did against Goliath. It was more than just a giant versus a little boy. It was his attitude, his faith he had in Jesus Christ, and you have that in you every single morning. Like you can't lose. The battle has been won. The battle has been won. There's no losing. God's going to use every single moment of your life to empower you, to build your character, to be a lesson learned in your life, to continue doing what he wants you to do. He's not leaving you behind. And I think understanding that in your life and in your marriage and everything that you do is going to lift you past anything, no matter who it is that stands in front of you. There's nothing, that can get in your way.
That is true. No, I love that. I know, like, for me, when it comes to like my baggage, for a big one, just realizing that I have been forgiven for everything and anything, and putting that to light. And from that, forgiving myself. That was like a huge one for me. Just forgiving myself for holding on to those things and knowing that God, he's taking care of me and I surrendered it all to him. And I feel like that has helped me in our marriage. Just being able to be more myself around you, and like surrendering these things. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's okay. People know it's real. I mean, we're not making this up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something that's been really recent for me too. That's why it's like,
yeah.
Just going through my own healing.
It's not easy, but I've definitely seen a huge maturity in you as a woman, and being able to keep finding, it's been a motivation for me, because seeing you fight through those emotional battles, it opens up myself to feeling like, okay, I can do that as well, because I'm a little bit more like not gonna do it because I don't want to like I've been so closed off to having those feelings and those emotions come out. But being okay with it and seeing you do it and seeing how mature and how much you've grown since doing that has really opened me to like, okay, like let's do this, and supporting each other throughout this process, because I think that's what's really has put us so close now. And in a marriage, you're like, especially when you come to God and you're married and you're this power couple that's gonna go through everything. God, I mean, the devil isn't gonna just fold his hands and be like, you know what, you guys are too much for me. He's like, no, I need to take them down. So like, he comes harder. You know what I mean? His attacks are deeper. He's triggering past emotions that you didn't even know you had, that are causing you issues between you and your wife, like little things that you're like, we didn't have this before. Why is it happening now? And it's just like all these battles, all these little things that, all these fiery darts he's throwing at us. And if you're not ready, and if you're not, you're not deep into scripture, and you're not reading, and you're not praying together, and you're not, coming together, becoming one, you know what I mean? And understanding that God is in front of everything and you're putting all your trust into God, you're going to struggle, you know, and it's going to be hard and you're going to go through some tough times. So being able to, you know, see your vulnerable side and seeing my vulnerable side, and then understanding that we're trying, you know, we see each other really trying to be the best version of ourselves by coming to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
It's been an amazing journey. You know, it's been a very hard one, and then very emotional one, but the fruit that's come off of it has been amazing, and it's been amazing to see you grow. And obviously we're nowhere near the end, but we are moving forward, and which is
keep moving
amazing.
forward.
You know what I mean?
Forward.
So it's good to, you know, to see you do that.
Thank you. Likewise.
Yeah.
But you just touched on the next question, which is, how has the enemy tried to attack, what you just mentioned, ever since we put God at the center? Has it been more or less? And you did say more, right? So can you give an example of a time? If not, I can think of one time.
Go ahead. I'll let you go.
The thing that just came to my mind was when we first started our business. I know.
Oh yeah.
We got into it, and I know we mentioned it like once or twice here, but we got into it kind of like, hey, what's going on? Bumping heads. We can't be going on like, it just can't go on like this, you know? We were just not seeing eye to eye in things. And we still are not, but now it's in a good way.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing that it's good that we don't have the same vision, because we can work, we have different strengths, you know?
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was kind of like, if you're not seeing the way I'm seeing it, what's wrong with you almost, you know?
I think that's amazing that you mentioned that, because that is true. I think the problem was that I would have an idea, and then you would have an idea, and then we would just clash to see who was going to win the argument. Like who's got the
better.
Yeah, who's got the strongest argument, who's got the strongest resume when it comes to that, you know? And I noticed that, you know, and then once we finally got to the bottom of it, ChatGPT has been helping us out with that, because now I write all my ideas down and what my goal is for certain areas of the business, or how we want to run it. And I'll write them all down, and I'll tell ChatGPT, I'll be like, okay, this is my ideas. And then you write your ideas down.
These are my ideas.
This is her ideas. And then we combine them, and we're able to work together in a way that we both are using our strengths for the business and our ideas for the business, you know? And I think that's really shifted everything for us, understanding that things are going to get done and holding ourselves accountable. And before it was like, oh, he's not doing it how I want to do it, then it's not right. It's same with me, you know, like, oh, she doesn't want to do it like me. Well, you know, how is this even going to work? She's doing it wrong. And it's like, no, there's other ways of doing it. It's just that you work differently than I do. And I think that's really helped out. But yeah, that was a hard one, because I think that lasted for a minute, and it was giving us a lot of problems, you know, like in our everyday life, because we would argue about it, and then we would like almost like not talk about the business, which is a huge part of what we're doing. And we would just like try to come back to work, and then it was just like nothing was getting done. And we were just like self-sabotaging the whole thing. And it was definitely the enemy coming to attack what God had just blessed us with, you know? And same thing with that, with like our financials, you know? That's another thing. I think it's really been on the financial side, because we were like really bad with financing and bringing, you know, how to manage our money. God blessed us with that opportunity to go debt free, you know, but slowly but surely we started kind of doing that thing again, where we were like, okay, we're spending here, and we're not doing what we're supposed to. Then I was like, okay, like this is not happening anymore, you know? And we had to bring it to light, and we were both kind of like, we're both doing something wrong, but we were trying to kind of blame each other for how we were handling it. So we finally got to the bottom of it, and we're still working through that. You know, that's a long process, but you know, getting on the computer, understanding like, okay, how are we going to manage our money now? This is how much money we have to spend. This is how much we want to save. This is how we're going to make it happen, you know, and holding ourselves accountable for those kinds of things, because you're a team, you know what I mean? And if you're pulling the other person down, you're going to be pulling the whole family down, no? And I think the enemy has been really, really big on that against us. with our finances, and it's bringing out emotions that
Mm-hmm.
triggers us to like get angry or get upset at each other. So
But I think it's important that you mentioned putting it to the light, because I think that's a repetitive pattern. If you just bring it out to the light, that means you bring it to God. You're
mhm.
like, God, help me with this problem. Help me surrender these feelings. Help me figure out what to do. Like, guide me through this, you know? And that's bringing it to the light. And from there, you get that, start getting that freedom. You can start getting that vision. I know what to do now. Okay, he
Yeah.
told me do this and that. You know, you start getting the little steps and you start taking movement towards that way, and that's how you, I feel like, you break free from those issues, you know. And instead of like hiding down under the rug type of thing, you
Yeah.
know, it's like, no, you got to shine the light on where you don't want to. And which is what we've been doing, and it's hard to do, but moving forward with it, it's definitely the right path to
Yeah,
take,
the
you
right
know.
process.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So the last thing and we'll wrap it up with this last is, how has putting God in the center of our family helped with our kids?
I think this is one that I'm like I've seen the most fruit,
Mm-hmm.
because I notice Noah, which is our son, and Lena, who's our daughter, how much more confident they are in
Mm-hmm.
themselves, and how much more grateful they are for things now that they were before. You know, starting off with Noah,
No, he's 6 years old.
he's
So
a
this for
six.
that.
He's 6 years old. He had a really hard time last year in school. Just his confidence, everything was really low. He, didn't really get along with his teacher, and it was just not. It was a not a good school year for him. He
Mm-hmm.
was not wanting to do much on it, and it was kind of reflecting on his everyday life, just not having any confidence. And then once we started implementing prayer and showing him, seeing God work in him, like as
Mm-hmm.
far as like God, he praying for some things that came true,
Mm-hmm.
like finding his leopard gecko, that
Oh
was like
yeah.
one big thing. And it's just building his faith and understanding that, like being so grateful that no matter how old you are, God meets you where you're at,
Oh yeah.
and letting him understand that, and him just like all of a sudden like saying prayers on his own. Even when we first met Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
he was always very shy, Noah. Like he was always very like quiet, like had to cling on to like our legs, so like when he was around other kids. All of a sudden that day he just showed up. He's playing with his son really
Like
good,
if they were best
nothing, best
friends,
friends
yeah.
like the new. Then we all got together. We're like, okay, we're all gonna say a prayer together. And he said something so like he's just like, I'm so thankful that my parents found God.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
And then I was just
me
like,
too.
man, and like every day he makes sure that he reminds us, like he prayed, he reminds us that he's doing things that God is working in him.
Mm-hmm.
So many things that he's just like, I prayed today at school when this was just happening and I was able to do it. And then I was like, wow, like God is working in him so much. And it's just allowing him to just be free, at such
Mm-hmm.
a young age, something that I didn't really have when I was little. You carry a lot of like little emotions that you're scared or afraid of things,
Yeah.
and he's growing into his own person so quick, and
Mm-hmm.
God is there the whole way. And with Lena, I mean, she's only 3, but it's just her saying her little prayers, or sometimes she'll
She
like
asks.
yeah,
Yeah, sure.
before going to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
she'll be like, can we talk to God? And then she'll go to sleep like so peacefully, and she
Mm-hmm.
used to have a lot of little night terrors, and now those
Mm-hmm.
cut down. And then like before doing something that she doesn't want to do, like going to school, like
Mm-hmm.
where she was scared, she's like, yesterday, remember, I think it was, or the day before, she's like, let's say a prayer, and we all got in
Oh
a circle,
yeah.
and she was the one who led the prayer, and she's 3 years old, so you see so much
Oh,
from them.
one more
Yeah, go ahead.
example. When she was scared to hit the piñata and you prayed with
Oh
her.
yeah. It was I think it was my son's birthday or
Uh-huh.
somebody's birthday, and she was, she had the bat to go hit the piñata, and then she's just kind of like didn't want to do it. I was like, do you want to say a quick prayer, Lena? And she said, yeah. I was like, and all we said was like, God, please give me the confidence and the courage to hit this, and you give me the strength. And then she said amen, and then all of a sudden she just started
Felt like hitting
smacking
it.
it, and she was all happy about it. But like little things like that, they just understanding and letting them know that they can have a relationship with God even though they can't
Mm-hmm.
see him. I feel like they're starting to understand that they feel him and they see what fruit he's been bearing for them.
Mm-hmm.
So with them, I think it's been amazing to see, and they kind of it kind of empowers me to, their faith is crazy compared to ours sometimes,
Yeah.
So
Noah's been evangelizing,
Yeah.
like without us even knowing. Like whenever they play, he plays with his cousins. He'll tell them little things like, "Come on, let's do a prayer, and God can strengthen you, so you can get
Yeah.
through this emotion right now," or things like that. And he'll come tell us like, "Oh, I prayed with, my
Yeah.
cousin or something." So it's really sweet to see that. It's whatever it is he's seeing from us doing, it's helping him as well. And one thing I do want to throw in there, a little tip that is just something that I know for me was a big thing, that we hear this. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this before, but never really take it into consideration. That when you speak, it could be a blessing or a curse.
Mm.
I know for us, at least me, for speaking for myself, I used to say Noah is shy.
Mm-hmm.
Noah's quiet. Noah's this. Especially coming from a parent, when you say these things, it could be, like I said, a blessing or a curse. That was me cursing him to be a shy, a quiet kid. So I did pray to God. I did repent on that and, broke those curses. But just be really mindful of the words you use when speaking to other people. You want to use your words to bless and love others, not to say negative things ever, So now I say things, wonderful things, Noah's wonderful, courageous, he's brave, all these things. But just remember, your words are so powerful. So be mindful when using, your words. Be kind. It's my main thing.
Yeah, I do notice that, because I remember Noah started crying. I don't know what day it was, but regardless, we were in the car and I kind of was like, you know what, let me get to the bottom of this. What happened? And he was just crying, and you can tell he was emotionally crying. It wasn't just like crying out of crying. It was like he was feeling something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked him, well, why'd you react a certain way? And then he's like, because I'm shy. And then I was like, like he's already putting that thought in his head that he's shy. So he's going to build that story up for everything that he does. He's going to be like, oh, it's because I'm shy, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to break that out of them as soon as possible, because being shy is, having shy moments happens, but being shy is not something that God has intended us to be. We're all confident. He all made us with a purpose in mind. He has a goal for us, and we have to be able to show our kids that, they are confident, that they are, children of God who have authority. Do you know what I mean? And that's good that you mentioned that, because it is true. It's so easy to just, oh, it's because he's this.
Yeah.
And or it's because he's that.
Not just the word shy, anything. Like I hear parents say like, oh, they're dumb, they're slow, they're this or that. No. You speak good things or else don't say anything at all, So your kids don't deserve that. No one deserves that. And just know, coming from a parent, it is a lot more powerful speaking those things to your child. So something I had to learn. I was just like, oh man, anything I say, I think twice about it, But I think that's all we have for today. I don't want to make this any longer. We really appreciate you guys watching this and hope you learned something, a little bit of our story. Just know we are not anywhere near perfect marriage.
No.
But it's just what we learned so far, and we're still learning and growing every single day.
What's been helping us, how we've been like just becoming more cordial and having just like more peace in our marriage, So if you have any questions, if you guys have any suggestions about what should we talk about next, or if you have any anything you have to say about this podcast episode today, please let us know in the comment section below. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Bye.
Bye.